Oh, it wants me to rotate it.
Okay.
There we go. You're good.
See what Facebook says.
All right, y'all good to go.
Hey Team Rhino, we're live here at the Nashville Zoo. Happy World Rhino Day today. I'm so glad to be here with Jason Feasler. What is your title here? I know you're in charge of all the rhinos.
I'm a hook stock keeper, but I'm the primary rhino keeper. So I take care of the rhinos most of the time, but I also work with the rest of our collections.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you guys to
We're
celebrate
happy to
World
have you.
Rhino Day. And we have our crash of southern white rhinos behind us.
Yep, they're actually cooperating, which is nice. They came over to say hi. We've got 1.4 southern white rhinos. They are all very young. Our male TC, and then we've got our females Norma, Nandi, Casey, and Modwani. The females are all 6 years old, and TC is 7. We actually imported our 4 females from South Africa, so genetically they are 4 of the strongest white rhinos and valuable white rhinos in the U.S. So we're involved with what's called the SSP, or Species Survival Plan. And basically what that means is we manage all the white rhinos in the U.S. as one herd. That way we can keep track of all their genetics, and when it comes time for animals to breed, we can match them up with the strongest genetic match to make sure that the bloodline and the genetics in our population are as strong as possible. Essentially, they are a fail-safe if they go extinct in the wild. We know we have a genetically viable population here in the U.S. that we could repopulate if we can take care of poaching.
So you might move rhinos around from different facilities in order to facilitate that breeding and make sure that genetics are
Absolutely.
pure as possible.
Yep. So we there's what's called a stud bookkeeper, keeps track of all the births and the deaths, and there is a committee that's headed by the stud bookkeeper, and they dictate every year, every couple years, who's going to move where for breeding recommendations. So there is quite a bit of moving and shaking that goes on in zoos for genetic, strength. So a lot of science involved in zookeeping, a lot more than people think. So that's one of the things.
Yeah, let's talk about the science first, and then let's get into a little description about the white rhinos as well. But zoos are very important to that science, and we learn a lot from the research that happens here, right here in Nashville, and things that can actually be transferred to wild populations. So, what are some of the things that we can learn by having rhinos in a zoo?
Pretty much everything. For years we've been studying diets. Everybody thinks they're strictly, white rhinos are grazers in the wild, so they only eat grass, but in zoos we had to sort of manipulate and figure out what was the best diet for them. And an actual interesting development with these guys is they've found that some of the grain that we were feeding them, throughout the past, was actually not great for them. So they found that second generation white rhinos, females, were having issues with reproduction because of the grain. The grain that was predominantly used was very high in phytoestrogens, and those phytoestrogens were basically not allowing second generation females to conceive. So since that revelation, a number of places and a number of zoos have been working on reevaluating the whole diet and coming up with supplements and grains that are low in phytoestrogens. And since we've done that and decreased those, rhino births in captivity have gone up significantly. So that's just one of the things. Here at Nashville, we're working with a reproductive physiologist out of Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha, Dr. Monica Stoops, and we're tracking their cycles. So the idea was to get a baseline of who's cycling, when they're cycling, and the plan was to see how, when we brought our male in, how that would affect their cycles. Unfortunately, there was a hiccup. We had a lull in the study while Dr. Stoops was setting up her lab in Omaha. We knew that before TC got here, 3 of our females were cycling normally, and since he's been here, now only 1 of them is. So pretty interesting. They're, like I said, they're very young, so we've just recently started seeing breeding behavior, and we knew based on that study that he was probably only going to attempt to breed with 1 female because the only one was cycling, and that's been the case so far. So now we're trying to figure out how we can, if there's a way we can kickstart the other 2 that were cycling and figure out why they're not cycling normally now. So that's some of the things that we're trying to figure out now just through a hormone study by taking fecal collections. So that's been kind of a tricky situation too, because rhinos all poop in one pile called a midden. So if you're trying to figure out whose poop is whose in a pile of 5, it can be pretty tricky unless you see actually who it is that did it.
Or unless you're TC.
Or unless you're TC, right.
Because he can figure that out.
Oh yeah, they figure out a lot through just sniffing those poop piles. So what we did, historically a lot of places have used glitter or food coloring to mark the poop. We wanted to go a little bit more natural route. So we decided to try seeds. We went through a number of different seeds and beans and stuff like that to see what worked. And we've been pretty successful. So right now we've got 1 of them on sunflower seeds, 1 of them's on whole wheat grain, 1's on whole oats, and then the 3rd is on whole corn kernels, which makes my job so much easier. I can walk up to the midden, pick up a piece of poop, break it open, and if I see corn kernels, I know it's mode 1. So that's taken a lot of time off of our plates, and it's been a nice natural way of being able to tell whose is whose.
That's an interesting way of solving
a
problem.
Yep. I mean,
So, like we said, this is the southern white rhino behind us. Can you tell us a little bit about this species?
Yeah, so they are really unique amongst the 5 species of rhino. So first of all, they're the only ones that live socially full time. So females will live together in a group called a crash. Males will have a territory with a number of different crashes, and then the females will generally keep the male away until they're ready to breed, and then they'll go solicit him. So that's pretty unique, whereas the other species are all pretty much solitary animals. These guys, like I said before, are strictly grazers. So that's why they have that big, wide lip. The other 4 species have a prehensile upper lip because they're generally browsers, and they'll use that lip to help pull branches out of trees. Interestingly enough,
and some will combo.
And such as the greater one-horn, they generally are browsers and grazers. But that lip is actually how white rhinos got their name. So there was a misinterpretation of the Dutch word for wide, which is wit, and the English interpreted it as white. So, because clearly they're not white. All
Gray.
like white and black rhinos are gray when they're born. Generally, they're going to be whatever color mud they're wallowing in. But so that's how they these guys are also extremely picky when it comes to food. So, like I said, in the wild, they're generally just eating with us. Here, we have to supplement them with grass hay, and then they do get a little bit of that specialized herbivore grain. So, for training, with all the other species that I've worked with, you just shove food in their mouth all day and they'll stand there forever. But these guys, they don't like anything. Try almost every fruit and vegetable in there. Well, every once in a while they'll accidentally get a piece of broccoli or something. But, so we had to figure out how to reward them for performing their tasks. And they're very, very tactile. So when we ask them to perform a task, they get a bridge and then they get scratches. So we actually use scrub brushes like we would use for like deck scrub brushes. And that's their reward for performing the task that we ask. These guys, all rhinos are for their size. White rhino can get up to, females generally around 4,000, 5,000 pounds. Males can get up to over 6,000 pounds. And you'd think for an animal that big, it would be slow and lumbering. Yeah. They're not. They're actually very quick and very fast. So they can run about 35 miles an hour. They can stop, turn 180 degrees with all 4 feet off the ground, and get back to full speed in seconds.
I've seen people do that in his yard.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
He's cruised around the yard a couple times.
Great. Well, when these guys get the zoomies, you know, I think of the zoomies that cats get, these guys get that too, and it's awesome. All 5 of them just sprint around the yard. You can actually feel the rumble of them running around. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, they're fantastic animals. You know, and they've all got their own personalities. It's been great bringing them in young, being able to watch them grow up. It's really awesome experience.
When did that Nashville start to program?
We've had them for 5 years.
5.
No, just over 4 years. So they came in, females came in, and they're about 2.5 years. And these are the first rhinos we've had. So we basically converted our elephant yard and housing into rhinos. It was an easy transformation. Yep, we've been doing this for a short period of time, but we're learning a lot. And hopefully, in the next year or two, we'll have some babies. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Come back out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Chances are, well, we'd like to have 4 at a time. We gotta get those other 3 females over there.
Let's get one.
Right. Yeah.
We'll go from there. Right?
TC's still learning. He's still figuring out the ropes, so we got some time. But yeah,
He's just hitting sexual maturity.
he is. Yep. So he just literally about 6 months ago we started seeing the first signs of bleeding, and he's getting closer and closer every time. So he's figuring it out.
It takes some practice.
Yeah,
for
it's
a
not
rhino.
something
It
you
does.
just jump
It's not
onto.
the easiest thing.
No, absolutely.
So
not.
you brought out some enrichment materials to show us as well on how you work with the rhino.
I did. So generally for World Rhino Day, we normally celebrate whichever weekend is closest. This week being on the Wednesday would go either way. So we'll probably do our celebration on Saturday. That way we figure we can reach the most people. Fortunately, we've got some good weather coming up, so hopefully the crowds will be big and we can help give some, build some empathy towards the rhinos with that. So I generally bring out some enrichment for the public to see, just to give them an idea of some of the toys that they get to play with. And for those that don't know, enrichment is probably the third biggest thing as a zookeeper, for a zookeeper to do behind food and water and cleaning up. So these animals are not in the wild. Carnivores don't have to worry about where they're going to find their next meal. Hooved animals don't have to worry about whether that carnivore is going to find them or not. So they have a lot of time on their hands, and it's our job to stimulate them mentally and physically. So with these guys, we have a lot of big toys for them, and we do a lot of olfactory enrichment. So we'll spray scent, we do perfumes, different extracts. We'll get urine from some of the other animals and spread that around, and just anything that really gets them stimulated both mentally and physically.
And rhinos have a very good sense of smell.
They do, because they have a very poor sense of eyesight. Mm-hmm. So they make up for that with their hearing and their smell. You can actually, their ears, they have what's called telescoping ears, and they'll move those 180 degrees. In fact, their ears are even moving, and they're listening while they're asleep. So they definitely make up for that poor eyesight. So if you come over here, we've got just a couple examples of some of the enrichment. So we do have big, expensive, heavy-duty plastic toys that we could buy that they beat up on, and they'll scratch on this. And
It's got to be tough if it's going in with a rhino.
oh yeah, that's about 3/4 inch thick. Very, very sturdy. But that's extremely expensive. So we try to limit. We do get a lot of donations, and a lot of people have been helping us and donating some toys for stuff like that. But we have to also get creative and come up with our own ideas. So it could be anything as simple as an old water jug with some rocks in it, to something a little bit more advanced. Here I cut a couple tires in half and bolted them together, and I'll hang that from the ceiling like a big noodle. And they love to play around, throw it around, and kind of slinky it up and down. TC likes to twirl it around on his horn. There he is, by the way. Say hi. Hi, buddy.
There you are.
How you doing, Bull? Big boy, it's your day. World Rhino Day.
Yeah.
But a couple of things, they love their little mirror here. You can see they used to like their reflection until they scratched it up to where it's no longer a mirror anymore. It wasn't one time. but they like to spin that around and scratch on it. Rhinos are pretty artistic. We've got some in our walls. You can see where they use their horn to kind of draw on it. There's all kinds of squiggles and circles and all that stuff. So that's just a couple ideas of some of the enrichment items that we use for these guys. Some of the activities that we have for the public for World Rhino Day is we've come up with a couple. We get a lot of educational pamphlets and paperwork, stuff explaining the plight of the rhino and how people can help. And then we've got some little kids games, stuff like that, little rhino ring toss that we came up with. One of the more popular things is our hands off my horn. So what we do is we have paint out there for the kids to dip their hands in, and they put their handprint on here, and then they write their name in support of anti-poaching. So we'll have that out in the public for the kids to come up and stick their hand out there. So I generally, after the first painting of the year, I generally put my hand on there first. So that's a really popular thing because it empowers the children to get a feeling like they're making a difference.
Definitely.
Which they are. Yeah. And then of course you've got our our Rhino selfie frame, which needs a little help. It's a little wet over the winter, but and then we'll generally have a lot, like I said, a lot of coloring papers and stuff like that for them. Just little activities. We do kind of a scavenger hunt, and we'll hang little rhinos in the trees that have little facts about them, so they can go through as they're going through the park and read different things. Keep falling over.
Oh, we got the whole crash.
The whole crash is here. So that's TC closest to us, our male. And then we've got Casey on the left. That looks like Modwani. Nope, that's Norma on the right. And that's going to be Nandi walking past her. And then Modwani's over on the far side. So.
And you can really see TC is just scooping up the grass right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just mowing the lawn.
It's amazing that we have any grass left with the fire brigade. They do a great job of keeping it mowed for us. They also do a pretty good job of tearing it up over the winter. So it's pretty tough in Tennessee when they get relatively warm, wet winters, and these guys get outside most of the time and tear up the yard pretty good. Right, buddy?
So one of the other behaviors of rhinos is they love to wallow.
Absolutely.
So what is this behavior do?
So wallows are probably one of the more important things for rhinos in the wild. And it does a number of things. So obviously in the summertime it keeps them cool. But it also coats their skin and protects it and actually conditions their skin. Just basically like a mud mask for humans. With these guys, and we actually use the clay that we put in the wallows for when they get scratches or cuts, or they get dry patches in the wintertime. A lot of times they'll, with it being so dry and cold, their skin will dry up. So we'll wet some clay and rub it on them. 2 days, it's healed. It's back to normal. Along with that, it does protect them from the sun. They can get overexposed. Despite not picking it back up. Despite being
a little windy today.
Yeah. It was perfect about an hour ago, and now all of a sudden the wind came up. But it's sunny and not raining.
Yes, we got a break in the weather.
For the last 5 days, so I'm not complaining. There we go. There's a little zooming action for you. So yeah, and then so skin protection, cooling off, conditioning the skin. So it's really one of the most vital things that a rhino needs is their mud wallow, and they love it. So we started bringing up red clay from Georgia. It's actually baseball field quality clay, and they absolutely love it. It's fantastic stuff.
I think that part of the baseball team.
Yeah. At least 5 catchers. I don't know about a pitcher. They'll definitely stand and be a backstop for a baseball.
So Jason, I know Nashville is a big supporter of IRF. How can people get involved in saving rhinos? rhinos?
So there's a number of ways. We do actually. We just recently started a backstage tour where you can come and touch TC and scratch on them and feel their skin, and you know they're really tough skin in a lot of areas. But what people don't realize is up underneath their legs and behind their ears and some of those folds, their skin's just as soft as ours. So it's really cool for them to be able to get that textural difference. And everything that they pay to come to that tour, 100% of that goes to conservation. Another thing that we ask the public to do is a lot of the Asian species are really struggling with deforestation for palm plantations. So we ask, there's a number of different apps out there. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo has a really good app where you can just scan the barcode and it'll tell you whether the palm oil is sustainably sourced or not. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just one person, I'm not going to make that big a difference.
You can.
You absolutely can.
Yes, you can.
Here in Tennessee, I know Nutella was a big product that was using unsustainably sourced, and through public outcry, they have since changed. I just recently found out Girl Scout cookies were also using unsustainably sourced, and the Girl Scouts themselves stood up and demanded that they change, and they have. So every little bit helps because these guys are such a critically endangered species wide. Every bit helps. So you can also go to IRF website.
Rhinos.org.
Yep, rhinos.org. We can go to just about any zoo's website if you want to support your local zoo, and they'll have ways for donations. We can also, one thing we've got going on right now, I'm on the board of the International Rhino Keeper Association, and as you know, we are very strong partners with IRF and building more relationship every day. Currently right now, IRF and the International Rhino Keeper Association, or IRCA, are doing shirt sales for conservation. So you can go to rhinos.org or irka.com and buy a shirt, and all of that money goes to conservation. Their amazing designs this year are yep, that
This is IRF shirt for World Rhino Day for 2021. Get it now because it goes away on September 30th, and it's at bonfire.com. So make sure you pick it up if you like it, because September 30th, it's in the vault and won't come out again.
I believe the Rhino Keepers Association are also selling theirs on Bonfire. I wish I had one right now, but now I feel like I'm behind the times.
I'm waiting mine.
I've already ordered mine, so I got a cool orange hoodie. The design is really cool.
The IRCA t-shirt or t-shirt or sweatshirt. The orange sweatshirt
Both,
is
yep.
really cool. It
Love it.
actually uses words to form the rhino.
Yep.
It's a really interesting
The
design.
main body is endangered.
And that's one of the ways that you can actually spread awareness.
Yep.
Is by wearing the shirt. Because people ask you, what's that about?
Absolutely.
And then you can tell them, well, I support rhino conservation. I want them to thrive in the wild.
Yep, absolutely. So those are some of the big ways to support. And it doesn't have to be just on World Rhino Day. You can do that all year
Absolutely.
long. And they need support all year long.
But Jason, is there anything I missed that we should know about the white rhino?
Oh,
the girls are back with it.
Yep, they love me. I've got them trained to do this. They just happen to be very inquisitive animals, and they do hear my voice, and most of the time they'll come up. I mean, I could sit here and talk for days about rhinos, but every time we got the important stuff out. Conservation, number one. Education is one of the biggest things that we do in the zoo world. Science, we are big into science. We could talk about them being a conservation success story. In 1900, they were poached down to about 50 to 100 animals, and that's when zoos and conservation organizations got involved, started breeding programs, and were able to reintroduce them into safe areas, and their population went over 20,000 animals. So they are
today they're still threatened. We're actually at 18,000. The population has decreased over the last 3 years, so it's very important that we stay vigilant in creating awareness for this species and the 4 other species of rhinos as well.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's right now. They are definitely. Their numbers are going down pretty quickly. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some good news out there. The Javan Rhino, which numbers 74 now, I believe. 75. I know they had. They'd seen at least 2 calves.
4 this year.
4?
Yeah, 4 in the last year.
So 4
Yeah.
calves this year. I
Yeah.
believe there hasn't been a Javan poached in over 10 years. So that's good. Indian Rhino or Greater One-Horn Rhinos numbers are on the rise.
They're at more than 3,700 now.
Right? Black Rhinos have been on the rise.
Amazing conservation effort in India and Nepal to grow that species. And today, India celebrated World Rhino Day by burning their stock of Rhino Art.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yes, it was a momentous event in India to celebrate the continued recovery of that species.
I would have loved to have been there.
I would have too. That was something else.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
you got the Sumatran Rhino with the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary. They're doing some really good things over there as far as habitat restoration and breeding. So they doubled the size of the sanctuary. They're currently trying to find applicants to come in and make more rhinos. So there are a lot of good things.
I like that description. Applicants. Please, all Sumatran rhinos apply.
Yes, they need them all. So. But yeah, I think we've got a little skirmish there. A little activity for you. I like that. But yeah, I mean, I think we talked about quite a bit. You know? Rhinos are just amazing animals. Like I said, they've all got their own personalities. They're just big, giant puppy dogs. $5,000 pound puppy dogs. But they're awesome animals, and we really need to keep them around forever.
That's where you come in, Team Rhino. I want to thank Jason for joining me today and showing off the rhinos here at Nashville. It's been great to spend World Rhino Day with him. And if you want, as the public, if you're close to Nashville, please get here on Saturday. There's going to be a lot of great events. We'll get you, up close to these rhinos and have fun learning about their species. So now's your chance to, like we said, awareness, education, tell your friends, tell your family. You can donate today for World Rhino Day at rhinos.org/donate. Host your own fundraisers. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's a holiday.
It is.
It really is a holiday for us. So we're happy to celebrate World Rhino Day with you. Check out all the events that are going on at rhinos.org/World Rhino Day. And we'll see you soon, Team Rhino. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.